What's up, everyone? So, today I want to make a video about online dating and how I actually think it's one of the best ways to find genuine love. So, let's get right into it. So, I think we all can understand that online dating has mainly played a negative role in society, especially for average men and below average men. And for women, it's very much a double edged sword because it's great for women who just want attention and short-term relationships, but when they're actually looking for long-term relationships, their expectations are going to be extremely skewed for what they can sort of, maintain and retain in a long-term relationship because of those, false expectations based on the attention they've gotten through messages, money, and short-term relationships. And online dating has definitely been, positive if you're an extremely attractive guy in that chat category. But I think there are some positives that we can take away from all of this, and it sort of can make those negatives seem a little bit, less burdensome. So my thesis, all of this sort of depends on the most genuine form of love. So I think the most genuine form of love is definitely looks. And I think this pretty much is explained by if a girl's really into your looks, like she's gonna want to have, sexual access to you. She's gonna want to be spending time with you, and therefore she's gonna be enjoying your personality. And there's gonna be less stress on you to be that provider that has a bunch of money and is, giving her things and providing her with a lifestyle she maybe couldn't obtain. And you know that it's truly about you and how you look and who you are. I know looks can fade and whatnot, but I think we all understand that like looks are going to be the most genuine form, because you're still who you are, and your personality basically is your looks. So if we look at the second thing I have in the middle, personality, with the halo effect, we kind of understand that like personality is your looks for the most part. You could say something that really isn't that funny and she might find it funny, or you might do something that is weird and she'll find it interesting. It's just the basic halo effect. And therefore, you're going to feel like you're actually loved for who you are compared to what you can provide. And then if we look at like personality, so if you're attracting girls for personality, there's very few instances of guys who can truly attract guys based off their personality if they're like the comedian type, but it's really just like jester maxing. And unless you're like naturally that way where you're always jester maxing, like it's gonna be very tiring to try to like entertain her all the time and be on stage all the time trying to give her entertainment. Like it's just not gonna be that satisfying for you. You're always gonna have the stress in the back of your head, like, oh, I need to do something to be funny today. It's just not really something that's gonna maintain over the long term. Last, we have money and status, which I just don't think is a genuine form of love because it's very contingent on you having it. Looks, yeah, you can have a disaster, but you've already like made it imprint on her personality. Whereas with money and status, that's very much less because you're sort of giving her money and status to a lifestyle that she couldn't get. It's not necessarily access to a person, and therefore, money and status is not, very genuine. I think this is very well understood that if you're attracting women through money and status, it's just beta bucksing. It's just being that beta provider, and it's really not going to be that satisfying for you in most cases. So this sort of leads me into my thesis, which all of these points will show the sort of pros about how online dating is difficult, but it can be very rewarding when you do get successes. So first, it goes a lot into how you market yourself. So it's very customizable. So you can cater your profile to attract a certain niche of girls. So you can leverage your strengths, interests, and really what you want to, project through these images. So if we look at these graphics I have at the bottom, we can have the famous Tinder swindler Simon Leviev. He's using status and money to attract women who are maybe into those status and money hungry women, which I think we get a negative perception from all of this online. But there are women who are pretty good at like hiding the fact that they want to be with like high status men. Um, because maybe they just grew up with money, their parents sort of gave them an easy route through college and whatnot, and therefore they're just kind of expecting the same, and that's their way of maximizing their hypergamy, and they're not necessarily willing to just date some ugly bum. You have to be like a normie, high tier normie, whatnot. But then the extra status and money on top of all of that is really what pushes you forward against other guys. I think that's realistic in some cases. So you can sort of use your profile to attract those sort of women who like are high class. They come from money a little bit if that's something you're into. Obviously, you want to have a lot of careful be careful with that and be patient with that strategy, because just attracting the true gold diggers who like grew up poor and then they're just looking for someone to change their life overnight, like that will go probably wrong for most guys. Next, we have attracting fit and gym women. You can show pictures of yourself at the gym doing hiking, doing some of those other like exercise related activities in a genuine form, to where it's not like about you, to where it's like here's my bodybuilding photos, but it's a little bit more like here's my genuine interest. You're not trying too hard. That can help you attract women who are more into fitness and whatnot, if that's important to you. Then if you like spending a lot of time like going to events, festivals, concerts, parties, drinking, smoking, all of that sort of stuff, then you can sort of project that through photos of you like with your friends, going out and spending time at those sort of events. And therefore you can sort of attract women who are like into that lifestyle as well. And next we have the more like intellectual and introverted guy. If you want to go for women who are also maybe more into like academics and have a bit more of a calm lifestyle, and they're pursuing like higher degrees, and you care a lot about like intelligent conversations with women, then yeah, you can sort of project that through photos of maybe you like playing chess, studying in coffee shops, reading and whatnot. And therefore, I think the whole point behind all this is like, it's not to make it seem like all this is like, oh, online dating is great now, but it's to show that like you have a chance at finding women with these activities. And it really applies a lot to like introverted guys or gym guys, to where maybe the ratios and settings like this, or you're not, out of the house as much naturally, you can actually like find women who are into that sort of niche as well, to where it's like, oh, this woman is also using online dating just because she doesn't have this wide net of social circles. She recently moved to the city and whatnot, and therefore it's sort of like that common bond and whatnot. Next, we have competition. And although competition is pretty much a huge negative for men with online dating, but the positive to all of this is that if she's actually choosing to like meet you and go on a date with you, the odds of you like actually forming a relationship with her, if you're like not doing some of this other like gesture maxing and high status sort of maxing online, it's a huge IOI, because she's chosen to meet you instead of hundreds, if not thousands, of other guys. And therefore, her interest level is super high. And she's also omitting potentially some of the safety concerns of like meeting someone through an app, for example. And I think we can all understand that online dating is like the most, common way to meet people nowadays. But, there's still that, fear in the back of their head that it is someone from an application and whatnot, and therefore you should be very confident. If you are that normie average guy and you end up on a date with this girl, you should know that, look, there's some interest there, especially if you're not using money and status, and it's more of that like low investment plan, low investment first date, like it's coffee, for example. It's something small. Next, we have attraction. And this is sort of going off of the last point, is that unless you're really catering to that money and status niche, online is looks driven, and that can lead you to the most rewarding form of relationships, which is based on looks. And therefore, if you meet through a social circle, for example, a lot of that attraction can sort of just be like comfort with the person. You get to know them over time, and it's not as primitive. And therefore, I don't think it can be as rewarding, because they just didn't choose you over as many other people. Whereas if you're going through like a social circle or some social club and whatnot, It's very much like, oh, we just happened to meet and we like started liking each other. It's not as primitive. There wasn't that desire to like see someone's images and just meet them. So therefore, even if you're struggling on these apps, when you do get a girl who is willing to go out with you, you should be happy. You should know that there is a lot of potential there. Now, there are a lot of girls who just waste time, but I think that happens with the guys who go for these like high investment first dates where they're putting a lot of money down. So I think, look, we can understand that online dating is terrible, but there are some hidden positives that you can take away from this to where, it can make the, investment that you're putting into online dating and some of the disappointments you have can make you push a little bit further and be a little bit more persistent to try to get results with it. And last, it sort of ties hand in hand, but it's more convenient. You don't have to go out there and have this anxiety filled, cold approach to where you potentially get blown out or you embarrass yourself and it takes you like months to build up the confidence to do that and not have it bother you. And you can prepare a lot more mentally for these dates. It's not as much of a sacrifice to go out, spend 2 hours, and get like one number that flakes on you and you went out to this social place and then there weren't even any like hot girls to approach. Like, look, you do have to spend time swiping, messaging these girls, thinking they're high interest, and then all of a sudden when you want to coordinate logistics and whatnot, they just ghost you. So it's really, there's a ton of negatives, but I think the way things are going nowadays, we do have to look at the positives and think, okay, like, don't just be that guy who just says, you know what, I didn't get a lot of results in my first week. I'm just going to quit. Because you can push a little bit further. And the more success you get from online dating, the more of a positive sensation and feelings towards it you'll have. And therefore, you'll just get more in return because you'll just be staying on it longer to keep invested. Now, obviously, this sort of goes off the premise that, like, if you are like very very much struggling, like some of these guys where you see that they've spent like 5 years and got one date, that's where you need to actually understand like you need to fix your product. um but if you're a normie, like you can push through that barrier a little bit and you can kind of realize, oh, okay, this girl is attracted to me for my looks. I just sort of fall into that niche, like I fall into her type necessarily. So that's where you can sort of have the more positive perception of all of this and not be as stressed about, oh, I know she's getting messages from Chads. If she's going on a date with you through online, like most likely she kind of perceives you as like her type of looks. But let me know your guys' thoughts on this because I haven't really seen anyone mention stuff like this. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.